The Orish is a small sea between the Gray Sea and the Stormy Sea. It was created by the impact of the Orish meteor. Hello, welcome to the stream. We're just filling in some stuff on the wiki here. Basically, the way my channel works is we have viewers who can take on roles of characters as we build the history of Gethra, which is this world. So if you're interested at all, feel free to say hi, ask some questions. I can explain how it works, and if you'd like, you can even take on the role of a character that will be part of this canon. And there's books, there's websites, lots of content here. So. It's also intended to be a great resource for game settings for others to use. This is a public World Anvil wiki that anyone can access. Description is down in my About panels. Feel free to check that out too. Let's see here then. I need to make a category for seas, I think. Alright, so the Orish, which is of course two different things, so we'll need to make a second page for it. But we have the Orish Sea, which is a small sea here, created by the impact of this meteor that fell over a millennia earlier than the stories are set. Alright, so the Orish Sea is done. We should then create an article for the Orish Meteor. Let's see. It's not really a legend or anything like that. We'll just start it as a generic article. So, the Orish Meteor. The Orish was a major meteor collision with the world of Gethra that occurred at year 0 of their calendar. Indeed, most calendars on the world of Gethra use the impact of the Orish as an anchor. Alright, at least some basic information as a placeholder. All of these are going to be much more detailed as we continue to develop the history of Gethra. Well, that looks great right there. What happened with that? Alright, well, let's fix that. Gray Sea and the Stormy Sea. So next up, the Stormy Sea. And we will have the major seas done at least. Alright, the Stormy Sea. There we are. Lots of locations filled in. So we're going to want to edit this page again, and we will link that up with our new Stormy Sea. All right. Hello again. I'm Nick, in case you guys were curious. I'm Nick, running the Knaves Guild here, and we're an interactive community world building kind of project. So you can feel free to check out my World Anvil wiki down below. It's a public resource for game masters, players, writers, whatever you name it. And there's also a ton of existing content within the world of Gethra already. I have novels that have been written within the setting of it. I'm a author as well as a streamer, so it's kind of the deal here. But feel free to say hi. Ask me anything about the project, about writing books, you name it. And we also have a whole interactive side to this channel where we can fuel the world with the input from, with the contributions from you guys. Alright, the Stormy Sea, as we just continue to populate our map with some basic information here. The Stormy Sea is a major ocean on the world of Gethra, ranging far south and west from the Great Isle, and let's see here, we'll say New Meteor and the Elder Coast. And I think we have pages for most of that already. New Meteor. Great Isle, and the Elder Coast. No information on the Elder Coast yet. That's okay. We'll come back to that. All right, now we got to put a bunch of these into their categories. So we've got a ship we came up with just now. We've got a new category for seas. And lots of those that we just added on to the wiki finally. Let's see here, where would the Meteor fit? Magic and Phenomenon, I believe. If you guys are curious about my magic system, I've got a whole page for that in here. I have more details to add there yet, but there's some basic interesting tidbits for how magic works on the world of Gethra. The Gray Sea, the Boundless Sea, and there we go, got them all categorized. Now I think the next thing I'm going to work on is let's review what we did last time with the Cult of Melium, as it was called. So all of this story here is from the last stream we did, where we had a few users in the chat who were taking on the role of these characters. I think I took on the role of Tyrus of Elakar myself, but one of our regulars played the role of Bara Patain and made decisions for him, and he was leading this cult of Melium to begin influencing more and more cities and spread out across the map. If we look at the map here, they actually influenced all across Radrigar, and we're beginning to get footholds in the Isles, and all the way to the Eye of Maga over here. So, I think we need to add some more of these details into new pages. We don't have a page for Bara Patain yet. We don't have a page for Tyrus of Elakar. But we're going to note down there a few different things about these characters. So, Bara Patain. We actually go ahead and put on the credit for, well, not so much a credit as a just a little recognition and thank you for the feedback from the players who had that impact. So this should actually be down here. I don't know what happened to our order. There we are. So we had the same player who did He Who Basks in Radiance, who also created a character. We're going to take that section for there, drop it in here. So Babacus created Bara Patain, and we're going to add in some more detail about Master Patain. Alright, so let's head back to that world event page for the Cult of Melium. And we're just going to take a look there and see what details we can pull out here. So, the estranged... Oh, there's a typo right there. Let's fix that. The unestranged figure, prior to this date, Master Patain was able to cure himself, or cure the heir of a great house within the city. Alright, the Cult of Melium was seemingly first established around YSO 550. An apparently successful ritual completed in YSO 565, a famine in the land of Hyrena, led to an early boost in the cult's following, but it wasn't until much later that it received public attention. In 733, the cult was introduced prominently into the city of Ith by a local noble and sage named Bara Patain. Now, I don't think... we also have a timeline that we use to keep track of dates, so let me just double check here. Yeah, I don't think that we had a date in mind for Master Patain yet, in terms of his year of birth. So we'll put that to unknown for now. And next time Babacus comes on, maybe we can fill out some more details from the origin story of Master Patain. Alright, so let's fill in some history for this story that Babacus and I came up with yesterday. Alright, so in 733, Bara Patain, or Bara, healed the heir of a prominent Ith great house. Let's see, do we have a page for Ith? I think we do. Hello, Bobicus. It's been a slower night today, but no worries. Oh, sweet. That's kind of cool. Dragon riding kobolds. That's a dangerous sight to behold. We so far tonight we've just we worked on the globe of Gethra a little bit more. We read a couple more chapters of the Lives of Gethra podcast. And we filled in a lot of information on some world building from the chapters so far. So we have some seas that we've populated into the wiki now. We've got some details about the Orish meteor impact. And we're just continuing. Oh, we also added in characters for some of the minor characters from Dago's storyline. Just continuing to build a more robust population here. How many nights a week do you play D&D, Bobicus? Cool. It's nice that you get to do both. I know I think my game master that I play with on Monday nights every other week, so we're playing next week. He just runs games. I think he runs 2 or 3 and doesn't get to play very often. So 733 bear. I healed the air of a prominent great house and used his. Let's see here. Position to launch the spread of the cult of Melium in the city. I'm just kind of making up a page for Barapatane since he had only been described in this kind of historical imprint page. I'm going to leave it. Most of the details will stay there, but I think we will get a couple in here. We'll probably wait with developing more plot on the spread of Melium until the next time we get a few people in the chat. Although we'll see how it goes. But it's already more than halfway through my stream tonight, so I think I'm just going to wait for next time before we launch into that. But we can continue developing the wiki a bit here, and when I get some more details about the magic system into the magic page too, I think, because that would be kind of cool to have reference for you guys. Maybe eventually I'll have to run an actual D&D or some sort of actual more hands-on game within the setting. Might be a good way to bring in new viewers too. Looks like we might have a couple new people watching as well, so feel free to say hi, ask me anything. I'm an author and a streamer here. Yeah, I'd have to really overhaul the magic system if I wanted to have this world feature in that system. I imagine that most adventurers in that case would be there would just be a much greater majority of martial classes, fighters and such. But the magic also it wouldn't be the risk that you run with that. If magic is rare, then you risk the the occasional magician seeming really powerful. But in this world, magic is not necessarily that powerful. Like you can easily offset an opponent if they don't know how to counter for your magic abilities. But there's not you're not just gonna like burn them right where they stand as soon as you start the fight. like in some fantasy settings. If they don't have magic defense, then they're gone, you know? Over the next 11 years, or, well, we don't know how long yet, but over the next decade, Bear rose to prominence within the cult and led its spread across Radrigar and into the lands beyond. We'll cycle back to this page again once we get more information figured out, Babacus. So when we find out what his, right now he's kind of struggling to maintain his position. So we'll see how that concludes, and then we can add that into here next time. One thing I was wondering, Babacus, is how old do you think Bear Pitane is? We know that we've already covered events of about 11 years. If we look here, when he first healed that son of the Great House, it was 733 the year, and we already know of events at least until a couple of years beyond 744. And he's starting to, and then he develops these memory inhibitions and issues against the, from the rituals he's done. Yeah, I've actually run Dungeon World uses Powered by the Apocalypse, and I've run a couple of sessions of Dungeon World before. It's pretty fun because it's easy to just go kind of off the cuff with it, Yeah, maybe I'll think on that over the next few streams and see, because it would be nice to have maybe something a little bit more hands-on. Like my idea for the stream is once we get bigger to have a whole host of people interacting. We'd be doing different time periods and different time slots, so we could just have lots of people kind of coming in, and I would just be saying, here's this. Okay, we figured out that the war moved to this kingdom. Well, what's King so-and-so doing about it? And check in with King so-and-so. But of course, until we get there, it's a lot more hands-on. So we can certainly have, you and we had Xander and Aemon Ishtar, very kind of involved for a few streams. So why not make that more of an actual game? We can do some character sheets, and yeah, I'll have to put it. I mean, it'll be a bit of work to get it started. So we'll see how timely that is, but it might be kind of a good way to enjoy the streams a little more while we kind of draw in more of an audience. It's also one of those things that, I mean, as a writer coming into this kind of streaming space, it's a skill that I'm going to have to learn as I kind of adapt. Looking up cult leader ages, there you go. Yeah. I'm thinking he could be in his 30s or 40s when he first begins in Ith. Because the memory thing is not tied to his age, it's tied to the rituals he went through, so it seems that could be at any age, But yeah, it's interesting as a writer coming into the streaming space, because things that I find helping immerse players into it are harder to do when we're kind of doing this big picture history story. And yet the big picture history story I think will be really interesting the more that we develop it. So it's kind of just something I'm tweaking and kind of paying attention to as I continue the stream. Yeah, I think early 30s makes a lot of sense, Babacus. So let's randomize. Let's roll up a year for you here within that kind of parameter. So we'll say he could be born within somewhere in the 698 to 708 range. So within that 10-year range somewhere, that'll put him in his 30s thereabouts. So 702. So he's 31 when he begins his kind of spread of the cult into Ith. And did you want to? Well, let's just randomize his dates here. So the second moon and the 21st day. 21st of the second moon, 702. At some point I'm going to need to put a page on here about the calendar. It's not very complicated. It's a very straightforward calendar, but it would be nice for people to be able to understand that if they, are worried it might be complicated. In 733, at the age of 31, Bear healed the heir of a prominent great house and used his position to launch the spread of the Cultumelium. Great. I need to categorize that into our world characters page. Let's see here. Oops, I should have expanded that first. All right. And, oh, these guys are out of order too. No, actually, there's just one moon. They just figured the year is about 12 moons, 12 moon phases, right? Like ours is, roughly. Obviously, there's some inaccuracies that come with that. But they are also an equatorial civilization so far that they haven't had a lot of contact with non-equatorial areas, and on the equator you have the moon phases are even more accurate, and so that's why a lot of cultures on Earth that if you look at Oceania and some of those parts of the world, that's why lunar calendars are, even in some, I think some tribes still use them and stuff. So yeah, it's quite strange though, because it's so different from our understanding of it. But yeah, no, I wanted with Lives of Gethra, especially because it was kind of this big kind of series on the website. I wanted to not do a story that was too or a calendar, sorry, that was too hard to follow. So I made it very closely parallel to ours. It's just, 12 months, 30 days a month, and away you go. But some people will look at that and, and say, yeah, and assume there's many moons. All right, let's add in a little bit more about the magic system now. That's one of the things, calendars, while we're on that topic. I think you've seen me working on the globe a couple times here, and once I'm done working on the global map and we can start kind of doing world building for that, for all these lands beyond the known world, I'm really thinking that many other areas on the world would have different calendars, and so that's when we can get into some really creative calendars that are more complicated, and then figure out how that's gonna gel with this calendar. But that's something that's a bit more involved, and will be not something to do until we get there. Alright, so let me just review what we had written last time. Anyone in Gethra can be born a magician, but only those who are born with the gift may use it. Yeah. I just don't want to be redundant and write something we already know. No, I have not. I'm actually fairly inexperienced in D&D. I've only played in a homebrew campaign, so I don't know any of the kind of supplements yet. So